let's say you're sold. You agree that ethics is very important. You're ready to get started. But where do we start? How do we figure out what's right and wrong? Let's consider. Hello, philosophers. I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Show, where we consider the greatest questions of human history. Now, we are talking about ethics in the last video. What is ethics? Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how we figure out a good ethical system, or rather, how we rule out bad ethical systems. So, start off with this question: how do we figure out what's right and wrong? It can seem obvious, right, that some things are wrong. It's obvious that some things are right. But there's this in-between state where we're totally not sure what was the right thing to do in those scenarios. For example, I was surfing at Lowers. For those of you who don't know, it's a great surf spot. Highly territorial down there. It's I don't really like it that much. I'm not a very good surfer. I've been surfing for like 7 years, and which in old guy years is like 2. I'm not a very good surfer. I do my best to follow the etiquette, and I love surfing. So I like to do it right and all that stuff. But at Lowers, there are a few guys that just aren't very nice. And there's this one guy that everybody calls Captain Froth. I don't know about everybody, but everybody I know calls him Captain Froth. He's this old guy. I'm sure he was incredible in the 80s, but he sucks. He's a good surfer, right? He sucks because he's a jerk, and I hate it because he's one of these guys. I've seen this happen before. These guys, I mean, not just with him, that, they're on a wave and you are trying to paddle like let's say that for not all of you guys are surfers, so it's not going to make sense, but let's just say that you're trying to get out of their way, but they almost make it like you're in their way, right? They want to be like, oh, what the hell, well, this is one of those guys. He loves to do that, loves to just get right close to you, just to let you know that, hey, this is my wave and you're on it and I hate it, which just makes it so annoying. Well, this one day I came out of the water and found out he hit my son. He ran over my son. He didn't mean to do it, but he was doing that thing where he's just getting super close to you, like, oh, what? And I'm sure he didn't know that he hit him. But my son was definitely, a little shook. He wasn't hurt at all, but just more like this guy was being mean to a 10-year-old, I mean, there's one rule that everybody agrees on in surfing is you don't touch the groms, right? I don't like to use that word grom because I just feel like, I don't know, it's a silly word. But in any case, you don't touch the little guys, right? Hands off the little guys. But this guy is just such a jerk, he just can't help himself. What should I do? I thought about, do I go tell this guy off? Do I, punch this guy in the face? Do I'll forget it and walk away? Do I go over and sheepishly kind of, well, could you please, be more polite? I don't know. What should I do? Some ethical systems will tell you to do one thing, and some ethical systems will tell you to do another thing. So, for example, there's a theory that we'll talk about these theories, but there's a theory called Utilitarianism that says the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And that's very oversimplified, but let's just go with that, right? Greatest good for the greatest number of people. If you knock this guy out, he's going to be a little bit kinder next time, and everybody's going to enjoy a much nicer, surfing experience. So punch him in the face. And then there are deontologists that say they're just these rules, man, right? A rule is you don't get in fights if you don't need to get in fights. And you don't need to get in this fight, so just walk away. Different theories that will tell you different things. So how do we pick between these different theories if our whole question is, what is the right thing to do in this first place? We can't look at that, and say, well, this one says punch him, this one says don't punch him, and I know we should punch him, so... by the way, I don't know if I'd win that fight. He's a big dude, and I'm kind of a big guy, but I'm also kind of a wimp, man. It's been a long time since I've been in a fight, let's just say that. Which makes sense. I mean, I'm a 40-year-old man. It would be ridiculous for me to fight this guy. I don't know. I didn't fight him. I didn't. I just thought, let's just get out of here and not be dumb in front of my 10-year-old kid. In any case, we're trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. One way you can look at it is you get out of the water you look at every single option that you have available to you. You know, punch, don't punch, eat a sandwich, right? Go surf somewhere else. You know, I don't know, run in a circle. You can look at every single option, and some ethical systems will draw a circle around all of the things that you can do and all the things that you must do and should do and all those things. Let's say, you know, you could have different circles, and some things will be on the outside, things you shouldn't do. Some things will be on the inside, things you should do. When we look at these different ethical systems, they're going to be drawing their circles differently. And that is an idea called extension, right? When we say the word good, what falls under that term good? What is the good thing to do or the right thing to do or something like that? We're looking at all the different things that would fall under that. And again, it seems difficult to determine what we're going to do, but I do have one test that we can run that can knock out a bunch of systems that just aren't good, right? That we shouldn't use. And that would be something like this. There is an ethical system called evolutionary ethics. Now, I'm not interested in talking evolution on this episode. Maybe in philosophy of science we can get into like how that all goes down. But if you're like, you know, I don't know both sides. People get like, you know, they get all wound up about. I'm you know, not going one way or another on this one. So don't jump to conclusions on me. All right. In any case, evolutionary ethics says it is the case that the strong survive. So it should be the case that the strong survive. In other words, natural selection not only is the case, but we should actually help it along by taking out people that, let's say, are weakening the line, right, the bloodline. And that system would say, you know, well, if this guy is a weaker person, take him down, get rid of him. That would clearly be something. It feels wrong, right? Feels wrong. I don't know that it would say in this particular scenario to do exactly that. But here's what one thing it would say. It would say to get rid of weak people, right? That's sort of the idea of the ethic. So handicapped people, right? People who are mentally challenged in some way, anything like that. You should, and this should sound familiar. This is exactly the idea of the Nazis, right? In fact, we're going to call this the Hitler test. I didn't come up with this. I got it from Introduction to Ethics by Henry Gensler, I believe. I think that's the guy's name. I'll put a link in the description. You know, you should definitely check that book out if you are. It's not like if you're a philosopher already, it's going to be very. I don't know, a little too easy, you know, but if you're not a philosopher, you're just getting into this stuff, it is perfect for you because it doesn't get wild into technical terms, and it does a really good job of giving you practical applications. How would this kind of a person view this situation? In fact, maybe I'll do a book review on that. I don't know. We'll see. In any case, He has this thought and or this test, and the thought is this: if your ethical system can't get rid of what we all consider the worst possible thing, then it's probably not a good ethical system, right? Probably shouldn't be around. And you might be thinking that this test sounds eerily similar to a certain logical fallacy that people are apt to commit. I don't know if you've heard of Godwin's law, which is that it goes something like as an internet conversation goes on in time, the probability that someone will be compared to a Nazi reaches 1, right, 100%. And basically saying like, you know, eventually somebody calls you a Nazi, and that definitely seems to be. I hear a lot of people go off the rails and say stuff like that. This isn't saying something quite the same way. And really, what Godwin's law is not really a real law. It's, of course, it's like tongue in cheek. But the point here is that people will do this, right? They'll say, in fact, you know, the one example I remember, which I think, if you've ever seen the movie Office Space, they make Jennifer Aniston's character She works at like a Chili's or a Crapplebee's or something like that, and they make her wear flair, which are these little buttons. And she says, you know who else made people wear flair? The Nazis. You know, and the implication here is, of course, you know, just like the Nazis made people wear the Star of David, you're making me wear the, you know, little things. And so you guys are similar in that way. Therefore, you must be similar in other ways, like genocide, you know, which clearly is not a legitimate conclusion, right? That seems to be a strategy that people will employ in political arguments and in religious arguments, you know, is to compare people to the Nazis. Notice I'm not comparing anybody. What I'm saying is, no, if you can't rule out the Nazis, right, then your ethical system is not a good one, right? I'm not comparing ethical people to Nazis. I'm not saying, hey, you know who else made systems like this? The Nazis. I'm saying, you know, you should, with your ethics, be able to rule out Nazism, or really you could fit in any kind of atrocious thing. A favorite, I didn't come up with this, but a favorite in philosophy is torturing babies for fun. If you can't say that torturing babies for fun is a bad thing, then your ethical system is probably faulty. Again, I didn't come up with that, but you could see why. It's people use it because everybody agrees that that's wrong. Right? If anything is wrong, they agree that that should be wrong, or that genocide should be wrong. Things like that should be wrong. So there it is, the Hitler test. If we can rule out these systems, then at least we can take seriously other systems and look and see which ones we think are right. You will be surprised at how many ethical systems fail this test, that they can't say that Hitler was wrong for doing what he did. So yeah, it sounds like an inanity, right? Like, okay, obviously we should be able to say that, but who's going to say that? Well, a lot of systems, although they don't realize it at first, the logical implications of their ethical systems will be that the Hitler test has been failed. Now, evolutionary ethics, that clearly fails the test, because the Nazis that was actually the ethic that they were employing, right? They were actually saying that, and it led to these atrocious things. But there are going to be other systems that people would never think about doing that kind of stuff. And yet, if you go through their system and you think about it, they can't say that that's wrong. Oh, that seems to be a poor ethical system. Anyway, as I always say, best philosophy happens in dialogue. So please hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. Give me any questions you got. Also, tag your friends in it so that they can watch this video and join the conversation. Like, subscribe, etc., etc. That's all I got for today. Adios.